Let's talk about Minnesota, not the state, the play that the Oklahoma City Thunder run. You may first be wondering,
wait, why is he calling it that?
We'll get there in a minute, but first, here's the setup and execution of one of the most often run and most effective plays the Thunder use, and one that has a very intentional design that helped push OKC to one of the fastest paced teams in the league during the 2022-23 season. It always comes after opposing free throws, with the trigger being right before the shooter gets the ball for the last attempt. Coach Mark Daigneault will call out Minnesota, and two Thunder players who are outside of the three-point line quickly jog to the other end of the floor, spacing out to the corners. Thereby, two defenders follow, so in the front court, it's now a 3-on-3 situation when the ball is inbounded. And if the shooter makes or misses, the ball is supposed to get into the hands of a guard to push it up the floor in what instantly becomes a makeshift transition opportunity. Maybe it leads to a downhill attack out of the spaced floor, or it can generate a kick out to a shooter or a pass to a cutter. But in what is normally one of the slowest walk it up the floor situations in basketball following an opposing free throw, the Thunder have turned it into one of the fastest attacks in the league. The Thunder run it all the time. If you watch an OKC game, you'll hear Mark Daigneault call out Minnesota at least 5 or 6 times, or maybe more. And yep, it's most often Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the point of attack of Minnesota. Daigneault explained it this way: if you can generate 1 or 2 more transition looks just off of a free throw, that's 1 or 2 transition looks you wouldn't have otherwise had. That's kind of the philosophy behind it, is just the speed in a part of the game where usually you're walking the ball up the floor and playing against a very static defense. It's basketball innovation, really. So, why Minnesota? Well, like any NBA play, it has an origin story, and they all have a reason for the name. Like, say, horns, for example. Easy to get. 2 players come up to screen, like the tip of horns. Horns down, same thing, just upside down. How about floppy? It's a staple of basically every NBA playbook where a player, typically a good shooter, runs the baseline and reads the defense to choose a side to come off of a screen. It's set up with one side having a single screen and the other to come off of a double. You've seen Kyle Korver, JJ Redick, Steph Curry, Reggie Miller, Devin Booker, and on and on and on run this play a million times. So why floppy? Because the classic hand signal for it is a hand flopping back and forth, signifying the option to run off the screen on this side or that side. Hence, floppy. Elevator? It's because when the player runs through the double screen, the doors close on it, like an elevator.
That makes sense.
Hawk is a classic set with variations of plays to come out of it, created by Hubie Brown in the 1970s when he was coaching, you guessed it, the Atlanta Hawks. Flex originated in the 1960s, and it's a go-to offense for every high school coach because of its simplicity in beating man defense, with its flex cuts across the paint and its screen-to-screener actions. But it's called flex because the signal for it is a flexed arm up. Simple. Minnesota, though, gets its name because of Larry Greer, a former advanced scout for the Thunder who would often relay interesting things he saw on his road travels to Daigneault, who at the time was the coach of the OKC Blue. Daigneault told the story this way. And so he called me up and he said Minnesota's doing this crazy thing with Ricky Rubio, where they're putting 2 guys down the floor after free throws. They're opening the floor up, and Rubio's like hitting back cuts and stuff. With the Blue, Daigneault wanted to find more ways for more touches for dynamic guard Daniel Hamilton. So he added the Rubio play, aka the Minnesota play. And it turns out, as this great story in the Oklahoman from Joe Masato laid out, Hamilton wasn't all that great at Minnesota. And the play actually ended up working much better for a player named Dez Wells. Once I kind of got used to it, I would look at Daigneault like, you want me to just get the ball and go score? Well said, as fast as you can, Daigneault responded. The play has evolved and developed, and obviously with players like SGA and Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams executing it now, it looks a bit different. And in Summer League even, the Thunder, who are at the forefront of positionless basketball right now, inverted it to have Chet Holmgren bringing it up. And he's from Minnesota, which is a nice touch.
Poetic.
Small sidebar, the Thunder ran another play last season after opposing free throws called Belgrade, where Aleksej Pokuševski initiated the action. Why Belgrade? Well, take a guess. Daigneault asked Poku where he's from, and he responded with a Serbian city that was kind of hard to pronounce. So Daigneault defaulted to Belgrade, which is where Poku grew up mostly. So there you go. Maybe there will be a Melbourne or a Montreal in the future. Who knows? But at least now, when you hear Mark Daigneault calling it out,
Minnesota point,
you won't have to wonder, why does he keep just randomly saying Minnesota? Well, because when he says Minnesota, he really means points.